We're all set to go. Thanks very much indeed, Ash, and let's get into it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I was going to start the presentation today with my joke about deja vu, but I had this weird feeling that I'd already told it before. And it's a little bit like this topic because we did kind of go through a lot of this stuff in session 3, you may remember. So today we are going to get a lot more specific. We're going to drill down to some specific items. One of the things we're not going to talk about is the EDM module. So the EDM is the electronic direct mail module, and maybe some of the folks at home are using that now, or you may be using something else such as MailChimp, one of those programs. And the idea of those programs is to send out lots of emails, EDMs, out to thousands of people at a time. So we're not really talking about that today. We are talking about form letters, which is used for sending out emails, and we're talking about SMS templates for sending out text messages. Now, certainly you can use form letters for marketing purposes, but it's not designed for sending out thousands of emails. So if you want to do that, if you've got a marketing department, or you want to get a little bit more aggressive with direct marketing, the EDM's probably the tool you need. If that's the case, I'd recommend you contact the RMS sales team in your area. Just ask them about costs and features, etc., etc. If you wanted to use form letters to send out, some sort of marketing emails, you certainly can. And I've just recently been working with a client where we had lots of COVID credits, lots of guests that were carrying COVID credits. And we wanted to send an email to all of those people, say, hey, look, you've got this credit. Why don't you make a booking? And there was a link to the Book Now button, all that sort of stuff for people to make. It was very, very successful. And that was about 150 people. So it dealt with that very well. If you're trying to send, 5,000 emails out of form letters, you're probably going to struggle just a little bit. So not talking about EDM modules today. We will talk about form letters and how to format those, and interactive documents, which may be new to some folks. Inserting images, the best way to do it, using merge fields. We're going to talk about all of that. We'll talk about SMSs, same deal, how to merge fields and all of those really good things and best practices. Triggered Correspondence, just an incredibly powerful tool. And over the last 10 years, it really has evolved into this just wonderful thing that you can just set and forget, and it's going to do all of your guest communications for you. And we'll go through a few secrets for success. All right, so let's go into a live demo. So for those folks who don't have these features turned on now, and I'm just going to go into the module market, which is this one down here. If you can't see the module market, it may mean that you're, a little bit too low on the food chain, and you might have to speak to your administrator, system administrator, to give you permission to go into the module market, or maybe you need to get your manager to do this for you. I'm just going to go into the available ones at the moment, and I am going to search for SMS, and it's as simple as tracking down the SMS two-way module. Now, some of the folks at home today may have the one-way SMS module now, and what that means is you can create SMSs, text messages, in RMS, and you can send that to one or more, hundreds if you want, everyone. You can send messages out of RMS and they'll receive that on their mobile phones. If you don't have any of those and you would like to start, the only one available now is the two-way SMS module. So if you've got the one-way, you can keep that. If you want to go up to the two-way, you can do that. But if you haven't got any of them, the only one available now is the two-way. There is a monthly fee for the two-way module, and there's a per text message fee as well. That varies. We've got an international audience here today, so I won't quote figures. In Australia, I think it might be something like 7 cents per message that you send. The two-way means that not only can you send out SMSs out of RMS, but the folks who receive them can send an SMS back, which is incredibly powerful. So all you would do is you would turn on this little button here, follow the prompts. Let's have a look at the two-way email. So you've been able to send emails out of RMS since emails were invented, just about. What we couldn't do until the last couple of years is receive an email back. So if you turn on the two-way email module, it's included. There's no extra cost, but you do need to turn it on. When you send an email to a guest, it creates this sort of virtual email address. When they hit reply, it's going to go back into RMS. It's going to bypass your email server inbox. If you use Outlook or whatever you use, it's going to bypass that and go straight back into RMS. And I'll show you in a moment just how powerful that is, and you can see the conversations within the guest profile. So they're the two things that you would have to turn on to make this all relevant. Now, just a couple of little things that you have to, this is in regard to emails. There's a couple of things you need to check. One of them is very easy, and I'm going to go down here to Setup, and I'm going to go to Security. Once again, if you can't see security, you might need to speak to your system administrator to allow you access. And the top one here is this domains. Now, you need to verify your domain. What would happen if you didn't? Well, as you know, we all get thousands of emails every day, and a lot of them are spam. A lot of them are emails we don't want to get. So the email people have become very, very good at blocking those, so you never get to see them. You do need to verify your domain. If you don't, the chances are a lot of your emails are going to end up in spam filters. Not only that, but when you send out an email, when it goes into the inbox of a recipient, it's going to say something along the lines, I forget the exact wording, but sent on behalf or by RMS on behalf of the property. It looks a little bit secondhand. All you have to do is click on domains, this little plus sign there, put in your email address, so the main email or any email address that is in your domain that's going to come to you. When you hit the save button, it's going to send you an email. In the email that arrives, there'll be a simple link. You click on that link, and that will verify your domain. It's as simple as that. Now, the next one's just a little bit more tricky, and I'm just going to go to the help section here. We've got a magnificent help section in RMS now, the Help Centre, and I'm just going to click on that little question mark there. I'm going to type in SPF. And you'll see the first one comes up, SPF records. I'm going to click on that. Now, this is something that most likely you won't be able to do yourself. You're going to have to get your, if you've got an IT dude or perhaps the people who look after your domain, you're going to need to get those people involved. Maybe if it's a really big organization, you have somebody that's, switched on enough to do this. I don't even know what SPF records means. I don't know what it is, but it is a thing that has to be done behind the scenes by somebody who knows what they're doing. But they do have access to this magnificent document that Jenna, who's sitting in the background, who looks after the Help Centre, she's put together this fantastic document. Literally, all you have to do is just hand it over to the relevant people. And for example, let's say you use somebody like GoDaddy for all your domain work. You could literally just give them a call, hand them this document, and they will know what to do. So that has to be done. Once again, you're going to have issues with spam, etc., if you don't do that. Okay, so let's get stuck straight into it. Now let's go into setting up SMS templates. So we need to set up a template so that we can send those text messages out. That's going to happen in the correspondence section, which is just here, and we're going to go to SMSs. And you'll see that I've got a few examples here. We'll just have a look at a couple of them before we go into a blank one. So I'm just going to edit this top one. This is one I really like. I always set up what I call the blank SMS, and all I've done here is I've put just the word hello and then a merge field called given. So to get to that merge field, I just went into, you'll see here it says merge table, and these are groups of merge fields. The one I went into was guest. I used the search field to find first. Now I've renamed my given, the first name, as first name, and in labels, in setup. I'm not going to go there today. I deliberately try not to dart all over the system because it does bamboozle some people, but once again, you've got these magnificent help documents to help you navigate these things, but there is a section in setup, in property setup, called labels, and you can change the names of things. I've changed given to first name. So all you have to do is click on first name and it will put this merge field in here. So now when I send this text message, It's going to not say hello Given, it's going to say hello David or hello Jen or hello Ash, whoever the recipient is. And the great thing about having a blank one is you can literally just open this up, start typing, bang, you can send out an email, but it's already got this hello whoever I'm talking to thing, just a little bit of a time saver. Another one here, which is one I recommend that everyone have, the guest portal. We've talked about that in a previous session, just a really, really valuable thing. And this is a way of quickly sending somebody a text message so that they've got a direct link straight into their personal guest portal. And I've used a link there, which is guest portal short URL, which is underneath the reservations one here. And if I just go to, just type in short, and there it is, guest portal short URL. But I've also put their name in here and also the property name as well. So these are all of these merge fields that you can include in here. Let's just quickly see how we would go about creating a new one. So we're going to hit the plus sign here. I'm only putting the asterisk in front because that's going to put it at the top of the list just for this presentation. You don't normally need this. I'm going to call this test. And all I would do, I would just start typing stuff in here. And, you know, it might be dear, or maybe a bit less formal. Maybe it would be hello. And then I want to put in a merge field. It can be any one of those. We just looked at the guest one before, and we said that first name was a good one. So all we would do is click on first name. It's going to insert that field where I had the cursor, and I can just keep going, just keep typing stuff and keep putting in merge fields, etc., etc. Now you will see down here that we've got a character count, and you can see that so far I've put in 5 characters, and ideally we'd like to limit that to 160. Text messages are sent out in batches of 160 characters. Characters are including every letter we type, every character, every space, every carriage return. All of those things make up the character count. We can send, I think the total is a maximum of 620. I think it might be 612, 620, something like that. So literally you could send 4 text messages and it will arrive to the recipient as one text message. It'll be a book. If you want to send a book, maybe you could use an email or something like that. So the idea is to keep that count down. Now, I will tell you that it is tricky keeping it under 160, and in most cases, you're probably going to go into a second email. So it'll be, but definitely try and keep it under 320 because you will be charged for 2 text messages, not 1. And just bear in mind, so I've used this merge field here that says given, and, it's about 10 characters long, but in reality, that person's name, might be some very, very long name. Imagine if you used a merge field, something like notes, like it would literally put every single note, which would be, potentially thousands of characters. So be careful of how many characters you use and the merge fields you're using. I'll say again, tricky to keep it under 160, not so hard to keep it under 320. That's text messages. Are we going to save that? We're actually going to save that one. So now I've got a new one called test. All right, so let's move along now to form letters. And we want to create form letters to be able to send emails. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go straight into creating a new one. And we'll go through this. And when you first come into here, you sort of think, oh, well, look, this just looks a little bit like a Word document or something. That should be pretty easy. And I've just left myself a little note that says, why is it so hard? Anyone who has ever put together a form letter here that you're going to use as text message will notice that it is pretty hard to create this email that looks the same when you send it. Why is that? We talked about the EDM module just very briefly before, and it uses a system called WYSIWYG, which basically stands for what you see is what you get. And you can create something and it will send as what it looks like when you create it. This is a little bit different. And the reason is it uses a system called HTML. I don't even know what that stands for. It doesn't matter. And it can be a little bit tricky because there are so many ways somebody can receive that same email. So, I might have an iPhone, you've got a Pixel, I've got a Mac, you've got something else. I use Mac Mail, you use Outlook, whatever. And all of these systems tend to interpret HTML in their own quirky little way. So we have to put the email together in such a way that it's constrained in such a way that it will look the same regardless of which device, which system, which email client it's received on. Let's go through this process. I'm just going to call this one test as well. I probably already have one called test, but we'll see how we go. Maybe I'll call it test one just to be careful. And let's just go through some of these features here. Now, if you go along the top, you'll see that it looks pretty standard sort of stuff. This is the sort of things you would expect to see in just a normal Word document. Now, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go straight to a template. Now, you'll see that once again, the wonderful Jenna who's sitting in the background and who'll be answering your questions. And it's a good time to say that if you've got any questions, maybe it's something you've thought about 100 years ago, maybe it's something that's just occurring now. If you can start typing those questions straight away into the chat section there, Jenna will start answering those questions and she'll be saving some of the best ones for me to read out at the end of the show. But now is the time to do it. But one of the other things Jen has done for us is created these templates. And I'm just going to open one now. I'm going to open the confirmation letter 1. And here is, and you could literally just use this. All you'd need to do is just update your photos. You could use this today as your confirmation letter. It would work perfectly and you wouldn't have to do anything. And every time you send it, it would look fantastic. But let's see how we put it together. You'll see that there's a couple of opportunities for pasting here, and there's one here that says paste from Word. So if you've prepared your email in another system and you want to put it into this email, you can use that feature there to paste from, say, Word. I strongly recommend you don't paste text from anything. I strongly recommend you start from scratch and type it into this template here. The reason I say that is that when you start importing text from another program, like Word is a classic, you'll be importing an enormous amount of formatting, which is going to play with the email you're sending. It's not going to help at all. So if it's a really, really long passage of text that you want to put in and you've prepared it somewhere else, then use this feature here, which is paste from Word. You might even want to, if you use a Mac, maybe use Notes. If you use Windows, maybe use Notepad. Paste it into there. That's going to remove a lot of the formatting before you put it into here. Moving along, we've got a spell checker. We've got a little button here for inserting images. Don't confuse it with the one next door, which is doing a background image. Typically it's going to be the image one you want. We've also got our tables here. We'll talk about that at length in just a moment. Very important. When we go down to the next row, all of the things you'd expect to see, like bold, italics, rah, you can numbered lists, bullet lists, quote marks, all that sort of stuff, justify to the left, center, etc., and also our styles. You'll see that there aren't a great range of fonts. You're probably used to seeing, hundreds and hundreds of fonts, and there's probably just a dozen there, and these are web-safe fonts. So the world has agreed that, they're going to make sure that if you use, for example, Verdana, that it is going to work across the board. If you want to do some sort of fancy font, chances are it won't work. And 9 times out of 10, it's going to come out of looking like Times New Roman or something like that, which isn't ideal. So just use one of these fonts and you won't have too many problems. Let's just go down. Now you'll see that Jenna has put in a placeholder here for your logo. The reality is that you don't want to use that as your logo. You want to use something else. Let's see how we would insert an image. We could start from scratch by using this little image button up here, but Jenna's already started for us. So we're going to click on this logo here and then right click. We're going to go down to image. Just go to the general tab. Now we could do one of two things. We could use the image address. So let's say we've got an image somewhere on the internet, maybe on our website, and we say, well, our logo is perfectly wonderful there. We want to use that. You'd right click on that image on your website, you would copy the image address, and then you would paste it in here. A few advantages doing that. In my opinion, the email will load a little bit quicker if you do that. It'll be much smaller, so you're not sending this massive email across the internet. You could do that. In this case, I'm going to upload one. I'm going to click upload. I'm going to browse. I'm going to use this image here, and I'm going to say OK. Now that's sensational, except it's about the size of the moon and doesn't really fit into our email. Once again, very easy to fix. I'm going to right click. I'm going to go down to image, and I'm going to change the width. I've put lock ratio because I want it to look the same shape, and I'm just going to make that, I don't know, let's make that say 150 pixels wide and click OK. Now all of a sudden it's become a reasonable, nice little image. So that's how you would do your logo, and you would do something similar. There's a banner up there. If you want a nice big image, put an image. If you don't, that's okay. And now we've just got our text down here with lots and lots of merge fields, which were taken from over here. So here's our merge groups. Here they are. And we can pick them from this list down here. We just simply put the cursor anywhere in the document that you want this merge field to appear, and choose the one you want over here on the left. So, for example, with this email that we've put together here, you can see that it's going to populate from the reservation, from wherever we send it, for the specific guest that's going to receive this. It's going to have the current date. It's going to have their title, given, surname. So this would say something like Mr. David Jones. The reservation number, all of this stuff, which category they're going to be in, what the rate will be, all this stuff is going to automatically import into that email. As we scroll down here, and I'll just start clicking around, you'll see when I click in this section here, we've got all these little squares, which indicates to me that we're looking at a table. If I right click on this section here, you'll see that all of the table information is appearing, and I could do things like add a row or a column. Let's go to table properties. When you're creating your email in the first instance, just going to move that microphone back just a little bit. Thank you. In the first instance, you might want to see this table, just makes it a little bit easier. So I'm going to give it a border of 1 pixel. You can see I've added 1 pixel and click OK, which now puts this border around all of my rows and columns, so at least I can see what I'm doing. The reason for using tables, and I actually use tables for the entire email that I put together, is because it's going to constrain the text. If I go back into the properties of this table, you'll see that Jenna has made this table 600 pixels wide. 600, 650, I think, is the sweet spot. What that means is it's going to display perfectly on just about any device. It'll look good on a computer, but will also look good on a smartphone, and even some of the older, smaller smartphones will support something 600, say 650 wide. So we can constrain that table and therefore all of the information within it. Now, I actually go a little bit further than this. I put everything in the table. So the sort of thing I would do, I would click in the top row here, and I would go row, insert row before, and I might even do another one, row, insert row before, and then I'd get all of this information here. I would copy, yes, now, so that won't work. So what I have to do, so right clicking and copying and pasting doesn't work. So you have to go, if it's Windows, Control C, if it's a Mac like I'm on, Command V. So I've copied that. Now I'm pasting into here, Command V, and I'm putting all of that text in this table. Once again, just 100% making sure that it's all constrained within that 600, 650 pixels. And I do the same at the bottom. I'll put another row in there and put all this information and just keep going. All of my images, everything would be within a table. Before I saved this, I would right click, go into the table properties again, and then turn that back into 0, which is going to get rid of my border. So it's going to look really, really nice. There might be some times where you'd like to keep the border, maybe you want it to look in a nice, neat little table. That's up to you. So that is how all that stuff works. And if you've got any questions about that, let me know. But hopefully that's explained everything. Now I'm going to just hop out of there. So if I wanted to save that now, if I click the save button over here, that would save that now as test one. I can go back. That won't ruin the template. It's still there if I want to use it. And in fact, you could use this very one here, or maybe the second one, as your template for every email you ever put together. And you just delete the stuff that's not relevant and just add more stuff. So it's a really good starting point, and particularly as you're trying to get confident. The one thing I would suggest is that you need to send these emails to yourself. So create a guest record for you and send these emails, send 100 times until you get it right. It is frustrating just getting it perfect, but if you follow those little tricks I've shown you today, sometimes you'll note that you'll add a little bit more text, and for whatever reason, it creates it in a different font other than this. Just highlight that font, highlight that text, go up here and just, whatever one you're using, just hit that again and it will put it back into the font that you want it to be. Frustrating, but, just work with it. I'm going to hop out of there. I'm not going to save that. I'm going to go now into this one, which is an interactive document. Now, in most cases, when we're sending this sort of stuff, I'm just looking at the clock. We're running out of time already. I'll talk faster. When we're sending emails, it's just something that somebody's going to read. Maybe they'll reply to it, but they can't interact with it. However, we do have documents, and we can now use documents that people can interact with. We don't send them as emails. We send them to the guest portal. So people can go to the guest portal, answer questions, tick boxes, insert signatures, all sorts of things that they can do. Let's see how you would do that. And I've got an example here. Just a document I've put together. I've got a couple of example tick boxes. I accept this, rah, rah, rah. I've got some radio buttons. I can, pick one option over the other. And I've even got room here for a digital rego signature. I'll just quickly show you where that signature one is. So if you want to use, here we go. Now, if you're looking for the digital rego signature, it's under D for digital rego signature. Just there, it'll put this little box in. When people get this document in the guest portal, they'll be able to physically sign this document, which you'll retain in your records against the guest profile. How do we put these things in? It's these little things here. And once you put one of these elements in, it automatically turns it into an interoperable document. So let's just use an example. I'm just going to go way down the bottom here. Let's say I wanted to put in this first one, which is the form. You don't have to give it a name, but you can. Let's put that form there. I've got to be honest, I don't normally use that form, but it's probably not a bad idea. Now I can start putting in things like tick boxes. So I might want to give that a name. Maybe that's, item 1, whatever. And do I want it to be selected? And do I want it to be required? Why would you have it if it wasn't required? Put that in there. And then we can just keep, so, you'd put a label beside that and it would be, whatever. Option 1. Do you want people to tick that? Yes, you do. There's also one down here, which is contract tick box. Very, very handy. And it comes up with information that says, I'm agreeing to the terms and conditions, etc. So this is how you are going to create those. And there's quite a few. There's a radio button, there's a text box, all sorts of things that people can interact with, and they can complete that and send that back to you. Let's have a look at some of the places that we can send this stuff that we're creating. I'm just going to go to my one guest here, Mr. Example Guest. Let's go into here. The easiest way, I guess, if you want to just send one piece of correspondence, and let's say you're on the phone and you've just made a reservation, now you want to send a confirmation or whatever, any form of correspondence, we would go into the correspondence section here. We would either send an email. So I'll just quickly do text messages first. Let's say I wanted to send that, and maybe I just wanted to do this blank SMS I was talking about before. Now you can see that I can just type in there and create an SMS from nowhere. But if I use blank SMS, it's already preloaded just a little bit of information for me. It's got this guy's name, who happens to be Mr. Example Guest. It's already put his name. So now all I need to do is just, type away, and then I can send that message from here. Send that just for the fun of it. If I wanted to send an email, I can come into here, and let's say I wanted to, send this one here. I could open that. Goodness knows what we're going to open here. Yep, absolutely nothing. So we could send that by clicking on the email one here. But this document one here we talked about, and by the way, you can send multiple documents in the one email. Just keep checking the boxes. I want to send this particular one, and I'm just going to open it now by hitting the open folder. This is the thing I'm going to send, but rather than send it as an email, because you can't tick boxes in an email, I'm going to send it to the guest portal. Just simply click that button there and off it will go. Just for the hell of it, I'm going to send that. You can see that in the correspondence section, here's all of the history of all of the things that I've sent and all of the responses that have come back in the conversations here. At this point, I just want to quickly go to, I'm going to go to the portal. So I'm just going to open up another tab here. So remember that we created that link that we sent, which was a direct link for the guest to go to the guest portal. This is where they'll come. They'll say, oh, you haven't got a payment method. Deal with that later. And we're not going to send that just at the moment. Very, very obvious. Now, you're looking at this on a computer, nice big screen, but I can tell you, if you haven't looked at this, it works perfectly well on any sort of mobile device, whether it's a tablet or a phone. The person can clearly see, amongst all this other stuff, you can make reservations, you can download your own invoices, you can update your profile, you can buy a gift card, all of those things you can do, the guest profile. We did a show on guest profile, a couple of months ago. If you haven't seen that, maybe go back and have a look. This is a bit of advice. You really want to get involved in the guest portal because this is the way of the future. This is the way young people like to communicate. They don't want to read your emails. They don't want to have a phone call. They want to be able to interoperate in something like this, see all their information. The sort of things we can do here, we can pay now. We can select which charges we want to pay. We can add guests to the guest list. We can buy extra stuff. We can do our pre-check-in, send messages directly to, and you can see I've sent a message, and even more options. But look at this. I've got my document, so I could open this document here. I could open this document here, and I could deal with that and answer all the questions, etc., etc. All right. And then what I'm going to show you in just a moment is where we would see all of the results of those things happening. Okay, here's the document here. So, I've got to tick this box and I've got to tick this box and I've got to do all those things. And you'll see it's not letting me continue. See how that's great at because I've got to put a signature in here, etc., etc. Now let's go and have a look at how all of that looks in RMS. You'll notice that our message center has got a little icon there to let us know that there is some messages waiting. Let's click on there. You can see in the guest portal, there we go. I've got a message from Mr. Guest and he's saying what time can I check in, etc., etc. If I go to his reservation now, we can go into the correspondence history. And here's all of the emails I've sent, all the documents that he sent back. It's all there in a nice, concise area. All right, we're running out of time, so I'm just going to go and do a couple of little things. We're going to go now into Triggered Correspondence, which is this section just down here under Correspondence. This is a tool that has evolved enormously over the last 10 years. Very, very powerful. Just a great tool to be using in your business to automate all of these processes. I'm going to click on Add, and I'm going to give this one a name. We're setting up a trigger, and this is going to send out our correspondence automatically, dependent on, as the name would suggest, a trigger. So something's happened within RMS, within the reservation, and it's going to send out this correspondence. Let's hit Next. 3 options here at the time of an action occurring. Let's have a look what that's all about. So it might be, for example, and I'll be honest, reservation's the main one you're going to use. So maybe it's when somebody checks out, when they check in, when a reservation was made. Another one, really handy one down there, when the clean status is set to clean, so let's say you've got clients arriving today and you want to let them know when that accommodation is available, that might be the trigger you use. This next one, X periods before and after. So it might be, I don't know, 2 days, weeks, months, minutes before or after. So if it's before, it'll be something like, arrival, departure. Some really, really interesting ones now. Guest credit expires. In the account setup, you now have the opportunity to say how long you're going to keep a credit. So if you've got a credit, we were talking about COVID credits before, maybe you've put in setup that you can keep a credit for 365 days. At that point, it will automatically convert into whatever sundry you've set, maybe cancellation fee, something like that. So a really handy thing to say, well, two days before that expires, maybe I'm going to send somebody an SMS or an email to say, now's the time if you want to use that credit, time's running out. Another one down here is pay by link expiry. So maybe you've sent out a pay by link to somebody for payment, that hasn't happened. So maybe you want to send out an email or a text message to say, hey, look, we did send you out a pay by link. You haven't done that. You've only got a day to go or a couple of hours to go, whatever. Good time to do it. Also, pencil expiry, another one. Let's say you've taken some pencil reservations and, they're going to expire tomorrow or in an hour or whatever. You might want to say an hour before that to, create some sort of sense of urgency. Your pencil booking's about to expire. Why don't you give us a call and we'll turn that into a real one for you. So some really, really handy triggers now, or it might be after. These are after all of these things here. There we go. Or it might be a specific time of the day. And I'll give you an example. At 4 o'clock every afternoon, let's say on Sundays, let's say it's a resort type property, Saturday, I'm going to make that for Saturday. Let's say it's a resort type property and, just about everyone checks out on Sundays. We might say that on Saturday, everyone departing tomorrow, we want to send them a text, just a really friendly reminder to remind them that checkout time is 10 a.m., not, sort of when you feel like leaving. And we might send that out to them. So it's, once again, just another really, really handy little option. Let's go back to this option. Let's say it's, before pencil expiry. I'm going to go to the next one. Delivery method. So it might be an SMS. If it is, we'll just pick the SMS here. Maybe it's an email, same deal. Just pick the one that we created before. The API doesn't apply to many people, but if you have used the API to create your own messaging system, you would use that one. Or maybe it's the guest profile. We'll have a look at this just for a moment. So we would pick one. We would say that document thing there. We might want to monitor this because maybe this is a document where we need somebody to respond in time, in a certain time frame. Maybe we're waiting for a copy of their passport, their license, to tick the boxes to do whatever. So we want to see if they've done that, and we might say that that's required 1 day after the trigger is set. Let's just say that hasn't happened. We might want to enable reminders. So we're just going to, slam their inbox we'll do that every hour until they respond. And we're going to do that by SMS, for example. In this case, let's just send a nice little SMS. And let's send this one here. The next one is date filters. Look, in most cases, I guess it's going to be no date validation because you're going to say, well, I want everyone to get these emails or SMSs. But look, let's say you've got something like an Easter email that you send out. Clearly, you only want that for the people that are staying in the dates of Easter, whatever they happen to be. So you might have something that is time sensitive. So this is where you would do that. The next one is the reservation filters. Some of these seem a little bit obscure, but people have asked for these examples. So they're obviously things that people use, and maybe they're things that you would use as well. One here, we talked about sending out reminders if someone hasn't paid a bill, whatever. Clearly, you don't want to send that to them if they have paid it. So this would be a way of controlling that. maybe you only want to send this message to people who are sort of long-termers or only short-termers, whatever. You can put in min and max nights. And the status. So, for example, we talked about pencil bookings before. Maybe I only want this to go to people who have a status of pencil booking, for example. Let's keep moving on. Who do I want to send it to? Typically, it's going to be the primary guest, but there are all of these other people you can send it to as well. You can also send to additional guests. So if I have additional guests within the reservation and I've stored either their phone number or their email address, I can include them in the send as well. The last one is exclusions. Let's say this is something you don't want your companies to get, you can leave them out, or maybe it's one specific to certain types of companies. Rate type, maybe this is one that only applies to certain deals. Maybe you don't want it to go to everyone, but just the deals, or everyone except the deals. The room type, you might have correspondence you send out that's relative to one room type is completely irrelevant to other room types, so you could do that here. Booking source, there would be times when you would want to do that, and of course, bear in mind you could create a booking source specifically to filter out certain people. And travel agents, you might have one that's specifically for customers that came to you via booking.com, or maybe everyone except booking.com, for example. You would save that, and then that trigger would be there, and it would simply be working away behind the scenes. Now, Ash, there were a couple of little things, but they weren't super important. So I think I'll stop talking now, and hopefully we've got some fantastic questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dave, that was great. You really consolidated all of that really well. And I'm obviously still learning about RMS, so that was fantastic. Thank you. We did have lots of people come through and ask questions. I believe a few of them were addressed in the side chat, but rest assured, everyone, we will send out an email later tomorrow with the recording and addressing all the questions in the email with further links and support for you to do some research at home. But one really good question that I can flag, Dave, that you can answer is from Richard. He asked, is there a way to set up form letter templates that can be used for multiple properties in Enterprise that will insert the logo, business name, and address the relevant property?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Now, so what you would be using is, and you'll see here all my merged tables, one of those merged tables is properties. So if you are using these merge fields, it's going to be relevant to that particular property. So things like, name, address, and phone number, all that sort of stuff is going to be relative to the property. Does that answer the question?
I believe it does. So you just have to choose the relevant field for that property. Correct. For it to be segmented. Yeah. Great.
Are you happy with that answer, Jenna?
I think she is.
Okay.
Yeah. So it sounds great. I mean, we have gone over already. So thank you everyone for your time. We will get to your questions, as I said, in the email mail out tomorrow. And there'll be lots of resources there, including this recording Dave will put together for you, plus our recordings from previous masterclasses that we can link to. You did mention earlier, Dave, that we have touched on this topic early on, so we can link to that as well for you to have a full recap.
Okay, I've got a sense that didn't answer the question. So bear in mind, You've also got so if you wanted to create templates, you could create templates specific to a property, and then, once I've created this template, I can say, well, which one? I've only got one property, but if you had all of your properties down here, you'd say, well, which one does this relate to? And you would simply be able to move to the right, the one that this template is relevant to. And just one thing before we go, if you happen to be watching this video on YouTube in the future, let us know what it's like in the comments. But I just would encourage you, if you possibly can, get along to the live show, because there's a whole infrastructure going on here. You know, there's questions being fired backwards and forwards, and you know, a lot of interactivity. So look, if you know, this is going out to an international audience, and if you're in Uzbekistan or whatever, you know, it's probably the middle of the night and you can't come to the live show. But if it is in a time zone that works, I really recommend to try and make the time to come to the live show, because there is just extra stuff going on that you won't see in the recording.
Great. With that, let's wrap it up, Dave. Thanks, everyone. Dave, you were awesome as usual. And thanks, everyone, for attending. Further updates on our next masterclass coming soon for next month.
Thank you. Bye-bye for now.
Dave. Bye. See you, everyone.